Access, Lord. Say my name, get access, Lord.
Real talk, good vibes where the good girls reside.
Access, Lord.
Hey guys, it is me, Lauren Marie, aka Access Lauren, and welcome back for another episode of Access with Lauren. Shout out to everybody who watched the first episode. I got some really good feedback, and I'm really excited that you guys could relate to the content and that you enjoyed it. But today, this episode is entitled Colorism, the Bias That We Don't Want to Admit. I know that this is going to be a serious subject. It's also a little odd speaking about the colorism subject from a fair complected person like myself, but how the episodes work is every Working Woman Wednesday, I drop an episode of Access with Lauren, and then we have a larger conversation live with Lauren on Sunday. So this coming Sunday, I have a panelist of some really amazing women that would love to discuss the subject of colorism. So God willing, we'll have all shades represented, and it'll be a larger conversation. So today's conversation is colorism from my perspective, my experiences, and just, how colorism has affected me. So first, I want to start off by defining colorism. It is confused with racism a lot of times. Although related, they are not the same. So I'm going to go ahead and do my reading like y'all know I do. So there's a difference between racism and colorism. Colorism is discrimination based on skin tone, light versus dark, often occurring within the same racial or ethnic group, while racism is prejudice or discrimination directed at someone based on their actual or perceived racial status. Colorism stems from racism, privileging lighter skin over darker skin due to historical legacies of slavery and colonialism. A few key differences and connections. Racism operates across different racial groups, white versus black, whereas colorism often acts within a specific racial group, lighter skinned black people, darker skinned black people. And I do hear it often in the Latino community, the Afro-Latinas, and then you got the light-skinned Latinas. You hear about the J-Los getting more shine than the Amada La Negra. So it happens in more than just the African-American community. For example, a white person discriminating against a black person is racism. A black person discriminating against another black person because their skin tone is different can be colorism. So again, I want to touch on colorism from my perspective. So I would like to start off with a story. The earliest memory I have when it comes to colorism, because I do believe these things are taught. I don't believe people are born and then they say, oh, dark skin or oh, light skin. I think that a lot of these ideals are passed down from generation to generation and just from different groups of people. So I'll just give you a little bit of my background and talk to you about my first memories of when colorism affected me. And again, we'll have the larger conversation with a few more ladies this Sunday. And if you have any strong ideas, you want to talk about it, if you've experienced anything, please join us. And if you want to be on the panel, just shoot me a message. So when I was younger, first and foremost, I grew up in I would say 99% African-American household. From what I saw growing up, I was always around black people everywhere. I grew up in a few different hoods, right? But I happen to be one of the few light-skinned members of my predominantly darker skin toned family. Of course, when it comes to colorism, it was something that I didn't see issues from the darker side having issues, because most of the people in my family, especially like the darker skinned women, were extremely beautiful, smart, intelligent, highly educated. They just seem to be the most confident, people. Like, I never knew what they were experiencing from their side, because from the outside looking in, to me, it looked like they had it all together. So my experience with colorism is honestly the complete opposite. It was being light skinned, too light skinned, basically white. So when I was younger, I went to an elementary school in the hood. And I remember having to walk to school every day. I'm not by myself, but I would get dropped off to school. And when I would get there, I'm literally like one of 3 light-skinned people in the school. As soon as I walk in, white girl, you a white girl, you ain't black. And it was just like, man. And then there was one time I didn't even tell my mom. Like, she walked me to the school. As soon as she left, I went behind a bush and I literally just sat there all the way till when she picked me up. And this was like, what, first grade, I think. And every time I would get in there, white girl, you a white girl, it's like I wasn't black enough. And then it's funny because now as an adult, when you're around another group, you're not white enough. So it's like my issue was, you're not black enough for your black friends. You're not white enough for the white friends. And I'm not going to say friends, but I'm just saying community. So growing up, I just knew like the guys loved me and the girls hated me. A lot of times the boys, you would hear them say things like, oh yeah, she light skinned. And then, or I want me a light skinned girl. And then you see a brown or darker skin tone woman and she look at you like, ugh, can't stand her. And it literally wasn't anything like you were born like this. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't ask to, can you make me light skinned, Lord? It was just like, I experienced hate from the other side, but people didn't know where I came from. So they didn't understand that I don't have hate towards you. You look like the rest of my family. You know what I mean? So obviously, as I got older, I realized that this issue is so deep, and it's still running wild. It's running rampant. Even now as an adult, I can tell like some of the older women that are a little, because honestly, I just feel like this new generation that we have that's coming in right now, it seems like they're a little more like open. They don't care about this. They don't care about that. You light, you dark. It seems like they're more of a community that, like this younger community, it seems like they just all love each other. But I feel like for like my generation and down, people are so deep into these, like the trauma of colorism stemming from racism. So even to this day, there's women that I meet and they've never said anything to me, but I can tell. And I've heard it's gotten back to me like, oh, she thinks she's all that, and oh, she thinks she is. And I've even heard the term light skin, and it's like, that's not even something I go around saying like, oh, I'm light skinned, or because I'm one of those people that don't believe, you'll hear somebody say, oh, she light skinned or whatever. I don't think you can't say a whole shade of a race is attractive. Just because you're light skinned doesn't make you attractive. You get what I'm saying? Like, I've seen, like, me personally, I think for me, I can't speak for anybody else. Attraction for me, I think, comes more from features. Like, I prefer a chiseled jawline. I prefer this, and it might look good on dark. It might look good on light. But when it comes to people generalizing, oh, you light skinned, you must be fine. I've heard that before. There's a few things that I've heard that is very bothersome. I think I heard, what did somebody say to me once? It was a white guy, and he was like, you are beautiful to be a black woman. And it just, I don't know. I think that's more towards racism. But then I've heard on the flip side, like some of my darker skinned friends, oh, you pretty to be a dark skinned girl. It's like, it's really sad. And I can tell why people are so upset about it. And I just feel like that's why we need to have this bigger conversation so that we can kind of get rid of the hate towards each other and more so understand the hurt that both sides go through and kind of figure out where the true issue is coming from so that we can we can get back to being friends and loving each other. So let's talk about the language of colorism. You hear certain things like, oh, you're cute to be dark skinned, or don't stay out too long in the sun. You've heard light skin versus dark skin wars. I'll say this. I am guilty of seeing a certain skin tone in men and assuming they're a certain way. Like when I was young, you could not get me to stop saying my type is light skin, tall. It's a very ignorant way of thinking, but obviously when you're a child, you do childish things. And even to this day, I feel like there is a certain stigma when it comes to light-skinned men. He's soft, or he's feminine, or he's prettier than you, or he's like, there's a lot that comes with discriminating against people based on their skin tone. Of course, right now, I'm like, oh, the only light-skinned guy I would ever want is Chris Brown. But of course, you're allowed to have a preference. I prefer chocolate, a nice Snicker bar, you know what I mean? But that's different, having a preference versus being prejudiced towards a certain skin tone because you're assuming they're a certain way, right? Then you hear, so just like a lot of microaggressions, and they usually come off as like jokes, you know what I'm saying? I can't think of any off the top of my head, but like, I'm sure we can all think about some slight little digs that people have said to you. I had, actually, and I don't know if this is colorism, but a Caucasian guy came to me one time and said, "You're beautiful to be a black girl." And I'm like, oh, I got a good one for you. This was today on my Instagram. There was this guy, he was dancing, white guy. And he showed him doing better over the years. So now he shows how he's dancing. So I type, "You're invited to the cookout," which is a typical normal thing. And somebody says, "You're barely invited to the cookout." Now that's the first time I ever got that. And it was a woman, and it was a darker complected woman. So I'm assuming she sees a light skinned girl and basically saying, "You're barely black," right? Just ignorant. But I started it by saying the guy was invited to the cookout. But that's the type of stuff I'm talking about. Microaggressions. Like she clearly has some type of feelings towards me because of what I look like, right? So, next, I want to talk about where we see colorism most. A lot of times, it be your own family. Especially if you ever seen like people who have children that are different. Like you might have a dark-skinned kid, a light-skinned kid. You might have one, they'll say, "Oh, you got the good hair," or you got the bad hair. We see it all the time in dating and relationships. You usually see a super successful athlete, but his girlfriend is light skinned. It's like that used to be the thing. I remember growing up watching like in the 90s, 2000s, early 2000s. Every rapper's video girl was a gorgeous light skinned girl. You rarely would see like a gorgeous brown skinned woman here and there. It's way better now, but back in the day, it was the light-skinned girl with the pretty hair, right? And it made you think that's what beauty is supposed to be. That's beauty. If it doesn't look like that, it must not be it, right? So we see it in social media. We see it in the influencer culture. I do feel like it is better now because no matter what complexion you are, you can create your platform. You have people that relate to you, but that's because you're doing it on your own. I remember like when I was younger, and I used to model, and I started learning about the modeling business. I started learning about big agencies would have model boards, and they would have all these Caucasian ladies, a few light-skinned black girls, and then like maybe one or two dark-skinned black women. And it was hard to get into these agencies because if they already have that, they don't need you. We already have our dark-skinned black woman. We already have our light-skinned black woman. We already have. So it's like, it was very hard to take one of those places because there were only a few places, and light-skinned black women were definitely more than the dark-skinned ones. But I think that things have changed. Afrobeats has gotten to be way popular and mainstream. You got a lot of festivals going on. You got different brands. I think Fenty was one where I saw like this gorgeous dark-skinned woman, but she had this giant gap. It's like just making things that weren't typically beautiful now. So I do think it's better now, but again, I'm not on that other side, so I can't speak to it. Now let's get on to colorism and self-esteem. I believe that it starts in your childhood, your self-esteem, your identity. And again, I can only speak from my perspective. Growing up as a white girl in a black family, thinking like I'm getting positive attention from males. Oh, she's gorgeous, she bad, she cute. And then all the women hate me. It's like you grow up thinking, I wish I wasn't this so people wouldn't hate me. And it's like, it really can mess up your self-esteem as a child. And I don't know if this is true, but I heard a few times that a child's personality is developed in their first 5 years of life. So if you're growing up and you go to kindergarten and you're different and you're this, and you start to not like yourself because you're a certain thing, it does affect your child, your self-esteem. I remember, this is crazy, y'all. I told this on another podcast, but I ended up doing a DNA test as an adult, and I for sure thought it was going to come back 99.9% African American, right? I get the results back, and when I say I had a 24 to 48 hour identity crisis, they said I was 50% African. Most of that was Nigerian and Ghanaian. They said I was 5% European, mostly Great Britain. I'm sorry, 45% European, most of that was Great Britain, and then 5% Chinese. I don't know how accurate this stuff is, but my main point is I'm like half white and half black. Had no idea the whole time I'm growing up. I'm like 99% black. Why they treat me like this? When it's like, girl, you mixed, you half and half. But my point is that really messed me up. Feeling like I had like a real life, like nothing to identify with. You get what I'm saying? Like I said, you're not white enough for the white. You're not black enough for the black. I ended up actually adopting Mexican culture. I studied Mexican history and all that. And I celebrated El Dia de los Muertos and all that because I was like, maybe I'm Mexican. I like Mexican culture, right? That'll really confuse you as a kid. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk about colorism in relationships. And we kind of touched on that before. It like in dating, you hear people say, oh, I prefer a light-skinned girl, or I prefer a light-skinned guy. Just saying those things, like just hearing it come out your mouth, like it may be again a preference, but it does come from somewhere. Different friends groups. I remember at one time I was in high school, all my girlfriends were like, we would sit at lunch and it was all the light-skinned girls. I don't think it was ever on purpose, but it was like, oh, there go the light-skinned crew. And it's like it never meant anything to me, you know what I mean? But I never thought about what it meant for the other people who were not in that group. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So social status, is something where, like I said before, you'll see your favorite actors, you'll see your favorite athletes. And when they're ready to get married, what did Kanye say? When he get on, he leave you. Well, or you'll see a light-skinned woman, and then you assume that's what success looks like. I got to get me a light-skinned woman. And again, I'm on this side, so I never considered what it felt like on the other side for the people who didn't look like me, you know? And I think that's why it's important to have this conversation. Let's talk about media representation. I hear a lot about this. I'm not going to touch on too much about this, but we talk about people who get lead roles versus the best friend. When we're talking about movies and choosing your star characters, it's I can't really speak on it, but we see it, right? We see the love interest versus the comic relief character, right? Beauty campaigns, you usually see a very fair complected woman. And again, every now and then you'll get you a nice, beautiful, dark-skinned woman. So even filters, it seems like filters were made to maybe make people look a little lighter. Then you see people who want the success so bad, they end up going as far as bleaching their skin or using super just lighter makeup, and the editing makes them look lighter. It's just gotten to be, I feel like I'm on a rant at this point, but we're going to talk about this on Sunday. Then you have the colorism between women. Competition and comparison. And I think that a lot of times we're unwillingly reinforcing these ideas, but we don't even realize it. But then I've met some really, really disgusting ladies lately in the past couple years where it's so obvious that colorism is the issue. The problem is they're so up in age that they don't realize that they have an issue. You know how people are stuck in their ways? So it's like they will never go and get the real issue fixed, which is inward. You know what I'm saying? But people project a lot. So it's like gorgeous, beautiful, dark-skinned woman can't stand Lauren. She thinks she all that. She light-skinned. And it's like, did Lauren do anything to you ever? No. So it's like, when will we sit with ourselves and say, hold on, let me stop. Let me look inward. This is an issue that I have because of my childhood, because of how I feel towards the other complexion, of what it makes me feel like. And again, I said this before in our pretty privileged conversation. A lot of times a person like you may have, her boyfriend in kindergarten might have dumped her for a person that looked like you. Now she can't stand light-skinned people. So it's like, this is what I go through. So I can't even imagine what the other side goes through. And what I'm trying to get at is that I feel like it's nobody's fault that this issue is an issue, but when you're trying to make it hard for somebody else because of what they look like, I think that is the issue. And that is something that people don't want to talk about, because there's a victim side of colorism, but then there's also an accountability side of colorism that we have to fix, and we can't keep doing that to people, you know? So, I hate the whole light skin versus dark skin thing. I honestly just feel like people should be people. You're either a good person or you're not. You're either gorgeous or you're not. You're either friends or you're not. It doesn't ever have to be this sick, like, I hate her, she's light skinned, or, you know what I mean? Another rant. I'm gonna stop on that. I feel like we're gonna touch real quick on colorism in men. They experience it differently, and I touched on this earlier, how we're like, oh, I don't want a light-skinned guy, he's soft, he gonna be in the mirror longer than me. We just assume these things because they're light-skinned, right? Or we assume because he's dark-skinned, oh, he's gonna be strong and this and that. So I know that men experience colorism as well. I don't know that if it's talked about as much as we talk about it on the female side. But, you know, there is expectation when it comes to masculinity and skin tone. When it comes to parenting and breaking the cycle, I think that, you know, we're doing a little better because there are more dolls now that represent different shades, different hair textures. There's a lot more representation in beauty, on TV. Of course, we're not all the way there yet, but I think that, again, colorism is taught, racism is taught. This new generation, to me, seems like the most oblivious to what that looks like. You know what I mean? So they all, to me, just come out happy to see friends. Like, I think it's learned, and it starts with parenting. We talked already about accountability and healing. We have to recognize our own biases. Okay, we have to start to see where we're going wrong, because you would think, and if I'm honest, if I'm completely honest and being transparent right now, there is maybe a little bit of this still in me. But like, you would think that when a darker skinned woman sees a light skinned woman, you wouldn't just automatically say, oh, she must be A, B, C, and D because she light skinned. But because of my past and how I was treated being a light skinned child all the way back in elementary, I'll see certain darker skinned women, and if they're giving me kind of weird energy, I'm like, oh snap, here they come with the hate, with the you sometimes. But guess what? I have to recognize, no, that is a bias. I need to stop, because these people did nothing to me. But then 9 times out of 10, I find out that's what it is, y'all. But anyway, I think that I heard there's a YouTuber that, it's unbelievable. She's got to be about 50 at least. And her channel is so biased. It's so biased, and it's so sad. It's like, I think when she saw me, she assumed like, oh, this the type of light-skinned girl that be want to take other people's men. She must not be smart. She just cute. That's all she got going for herself. And she the type that she just want to win. She just want to. I have never heard so much projection in my life. It's disrespectful, number one, when you let that type of stuff come out your mouth about another grown woman. Number two, I learned that I have to lower my expectations when it comes to these older women. I'm thinking they have sense and they're just as ignorant as a child. And I just feel like these are the type of women. They claim to be so educated and they put so much into that, but they didn't put anything into their personal development. They forgot that class. You know what I mean? Like we have to start recognizing I'm wrong. I can't just look at a woman and say I know her type. That's not okay, guys. It's just not okay. So moving forward, I think that as we all need to make a conscious decision. Be intentional with our language. Try to stop with the light skin, dark skin, all that stuff. We need to listen and amplify everyone's voice. That's why I can't wait till we have this colorism conversation live on Sunday, where we can have other people's perspectives. Again, this is just my perspective. We need to choose our representation more wisely and create spaces for dialogue, which is why I'm excited for this Sunday's conversation around colorism and support diverse beauty standards. We need to do more of that. So I want to wrap up this conversation by saying that colorism is learned so it can be unlearned, but it starts with healing, and healing starts with these honest conversations. So please join us on this Sunday live. We would love to hear your opinions, especially if you know the history, if you want to speak more to the history of colorism and where it stemmed from. This is always a space of open dialogue. We can have discussions, a little bit of disagreements, no disrespect. I want to encourage you guys to join us, and please leave a comment if you have any experiences with colorism, or you want to, we can even maybe bring up one of the comments on our next live. And make sure you like, subscribe, and become a member of this channel. And I appreciate you so much, and I will see you on the next Access with Lauren.
Access Lauren. Access Lauren.